Okay, it is Sunday afternoon and welcome back to another vlog. And my hair is just best to ignore that really. I am VA Winter, I am an indie author, professional beta reader, sensitivity reader. I am currently working on a Sherlock Holmes retelling, which is going to be a serial, which the title is now out into the world. It's going to be called A Scribe of Secrets and Shadows. I posted the trailer last week, which is today. In my time, it's today. When this is posted, it's last week. I have been working all day today on social media stuff, so trying to get my Instagram back to being an Instagram. Trying to, as well, I'm sort of creating, because I created the trailer for A Scribe of Secrets and Shadows, which I'm just going to call Scribe just for short, because that's a mouthful. I created the trailer and then I sort of created the reel to go along with it. I'm creating some reels for the characters. It started out as a bit of procrastination because I didn't want to do the writing. I'm feeling a bit funny about the writing at the minute, but actually I think doing this and doing that trailer is really helping with really getting the aesthetic and the vibe and the tone of the story in my head and really knowing what I'm going for. But it is now dark. When isn't it dark in the UK? In December. Obviously the weekend is coming to an end. Cry. I don't want to go back to work tomorrow, but I suppose I'll have to. I didn't vlog last week. I intended to, every day I intended to, but I think I felt so rubbish last week that I just wasn't in the mood. So we've started the vlog off today with my new Taylor Swift vinyl, which it's the anthology. It's literally only came out on Friday in the UK. So of course I bought it. 60 quid. I question my life choices sometimes, but it's Taylor Swift and it is very good. So I've been listening to that this afternoon, working on my social media stuff, and I feel a bit better about it all at the minute. We'll see what the week brings. So it's Friday afternoon now. I've once more done a very bad job of actually vlogging this week. So as part of the developmental editing thing, my editor offers a call afterwards to discuss the edit. So that's what I'm about to go on in a few minutes, and I'm anxious because of course I am, because that's me. I get anxious about these things. I don't really know how I feel. Still very about the whole thing, but we'll see how it goes. Wow, the lighting is I'm not sure that helped. Okay, so I have just come off the call meeting with the editor and I am coming down off anxiety. There's this thought that goes through my head again, like, why am I like this? Why am I so weird and awkward? That's been the tone of my week, to be honest. Why is this my life and why am I like this? It changed because I felt self-conscious in my fluffy thing. It's given me a lot to think about. I've just got to basically redo the book. I'm just not sure how right now. I've got several options to think about and I just need to figure out what the correct way forward is. And I just don't know. I feel like my head's going to explode with ideas and thoughts and I just have to write some stuff down. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to make some notes and coming up with a fresh outline and thinking about the series as a whole as well, and thinking what it's going to actually look like, because I've got an option now for potentially having one book again. It might be a slightly longer book or it might not. It might be a slightly shorter book. But there is an option for having one book. I would then have book 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 being a crossover between this series and the next series that I'm going to do in this same world, which has its ups and downs, because if I split this into 2 books, obviously that's double the editing production costs. It's double the production costs for the books. So obviously it's going to take me longer to publish the entire series and it's going to cost me more to publish the entire series. On the upside, from a business perspective, the more books you have in a series, the more read through you get, the more money you make. So that's a pro and a con. At the moment, I want this series finished. I want to move on to the next series and I want them all to be trilogies, with the exception of, as I said, that one book that's just going to be a link between this series and the next series. I need to have a think about it, because obviously what I do is going to impact my long-term plans going forward, and that's something I'll be working on next weekend, and my head hurts and why am I like this? That's the conclusion of the afternoon. Hello, it's Saturday evening and I have just finished writing for the day. It's 6:45. There's about to be a live stream, which is like a plan your writing year live stream, which I tend to just watch each year by Sarah Cannon / Heart Breathings. I'll leave it linked down below in case anyone's interested. That starts at 7. I've written just over 4,000 words, which takes me to about 6,500 for the week. It's not been the most productive week, but then I've had other stuff going on. Yesterday, obviously, as I kind of vlogged, I had my meeting regarding Firewitch with the developmental editor, and I was thinking yesterday after that, I obviously had that in my head. I couldn't have turned around and then focused on Scribe yesterday, so I just had to play with the outlines for potentially 2 books. As I said yesterday, I do have the option of making it 1 book, but I'm just not entirely sold on that idea. I'm leaning right now more towards 2 books, so I was sort of playing with outlines and thinking, well, what's the minimum word count really they need to be? And I'm still thinking about it. It's, do I have enough story to fill 2 books? That's the problem. That's the sort of issue that I'm having right now. I don't want to add in a load of filler. I just want the story to be what it naturally is. But there's just that issue of, is there enough story to make this a full book, each sort of storyline on its own? I have finished the first episode of Scribe. Not 100% happy with just the wording of how I've ended it, but that's fine. I can come back to that tomorrow or another time. I've really struggled with actually sitting down and writing it over the last couple of weeks. And part of that has been just because I haven't been very well. Part of it has been I've had distractions, and I think there's 2 elements to it. So since I got the edits back, I felt a little bit self-conscious about my writing, and a little bit, I think as I expressed in that video, a little bit like, well, my writing's crap, so why am I bothering? But also I think because I've sort of made the commitment to publishing Scribe, which I think is a good thing for me, but I have made that commitment, and so I've had this anxiety of people are actually going to read this, and people are actually going to read this soon, because the first episode is planned to go live. I think I'm going to move it to Saturday. I've put the 5th of January, but actually I think I'm going to just go in and change the launch date to the 4th of January. It will either be the Saturday or the first Saturday or the first Sunday in January. And I think there's a level of anxiety. And that's it really for tonight. That's where we're at. I will talk to you probably tomorrow at this point. Okay, still in the same position, different day. It's now Sunday afternoon. I haven't done any more writing on Scribe since yesterday. I've been obviously editing this morning. I edited the beginning of the vlog and done some adulting, life admin stuff. And then this afternoon I've been working on, or at least trying to work on, next steps as regards Firewitch. Yesterday, or I was talking about it in a clip. I've just literally been talking about it in a clip about the fact that I was leaning towards 2 books. I'm now swinging in the other way and leaning towards 1 book. I've had an idea for how I can make this story into a trilogy. And I don't know whether this is another idea that seems like a good idea at the time and then turns out not to be a good idea later on. We will find out. It requires ripping up a lot of what I've already done, which is a bit annoying. It requires making Firewitch back into 1 book. It's currently 2 timelines. We've established that doesn't work. They're not exactly a year apart, but say there's a storyline happening in, say, 2023 and a storyline happening in 2024. Chronologically, this happens, then this happens. But there's a gap. There's a biggish gap, and there needs to be a biggish gap between those 2 sections of story. My idea was to weave them together. That doesn't work. The other option that was initially put forward in the editorial report was to part 1 and part 2. Other than separating them out into 2 books, was to make them into part 1 and part 2. The problem with separating them out into 2 books is there being enough story to make 2 books. It feels like the only way to do that is to have a lot of filler, which I don't want. I don't want to be sitting here trying to think what can happen just to fill these pages, because that's not the point. I don't like that. It was annoying me. I got mad. The idea that sort of came out of my discussion on Friday with the editor was to basically start the story after the gap and then kind of do what I was doing, but shrink that past storyline down a lot to just make it more like small flashbacks within the narrative rather than it being two separate narratives where the word count is basically 50-50, roughly speaking. I'm leaning towards that idea at the moment. I've created an outline. It's still got some gaps in it, and I need to have a think about the different threads of the story and what is happening with them, because I've sat with this story for so long now that it's really hard to try and think about these characters as being introduced for the first time. And I'm just right now feeling just so, don't even have words for how I feel right now. I'm feeling frustrated at Firewitch. I'm feeling anxious about Scribe, and I'm feeling like right now life is really hard. That's how I'm feeling right now. Life is really hard. Basically, work sucks again at the minute. I thought I'd made a good decision in changing roles to alleviate some stress. Unfortunately, something else is happening within my workplace that's making me feel that perhaps it's just time to go. I don't know. It's just where to go to. I feel like I've sort of hit a bit of a brick wall with what my options are as far as the city that I currently live in. So I don't know what the answer is. Something I'm working through. But anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to end the vlog here. I'm going to get it edited, get it uploaded. If you did like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video.